Okay, the Best Motion Picture Drama, The Revenant. Best Director, Alejandro González Iñárritu. And Best Actor, Leonardo DiCaprio. And please come up. Congratulations.
He always forgets me.
Gracias.
Here to your left. Congratulations. This is a fan question from the Golden Globes Facebook page. For Leo, what's the biggest risk you've taken in your career that you feel has paid off?
The biggest risk that has paid off. I suppose there was another project when I was 18 years old and 17 years old, but there was this one film called What's Eating Gilbert Grape that I desperately wanted to do. And it was the first time I got offered a lot of money for the first time in my life to do this other role, and I waited, and I'm pretty proud of myself at that age that I was that passionate about something and a character. So that paid off a lot for me because I got to work with some pretty unbelievable people, and I'm very proud of that movie.
Leonardo, it's Angela Bishop from Network 10 Australia, somewhere over here in the middle of the room. G'day.
Oh, there you are.
How
G'day.
are you? Good. How difficult was this film to shoot for you, and how rewarding is it for you that it's making this connection with audiences and critics?
It's very rewarding. You know, we had a very solid opening weekend because I think people appreciate seeing a different type of cinema out there, a more visceral type of movie. We really submerged ourselves in the elements like this, and Alejandro and our cinematographer Chivo shot this whole film in natural light in 9 months in very rough conditions, and I think people honestly want to see that type of cinema. You know, there's very little CGI in this movie. It's used very sparingly, but other than that, it's us immersed in this world, and that type of unique cinema is something that I want to see more of in this industry. I want to see people like Arnon Milchan stepping up to the plate to take chances on movies like this, because I'm just a fan of film. So the fact that the film won tonight and it was acknowledged, all the better, because we want to see more films like this coming out of the Hollywood studio system. It's a hearkening back to an era in cinema like the 70s where the director was king. To me, cinema is a director's medium, and they should be in charge. If they have a unique and strong vision, people should stand behind them. And that's what was done in this movie, and that's why the movie turned out the way that it did.
Question for you both. Have you read the Rolling Stone El Chapo article I'm sorry, it's the hot question, that Sean Penn did, the interview that he did with him?
I have not, because the magazine is not out yet.
The same.
What do you think about it? What do you think about the interview? What do you think about Sean Penn having done this interview?
I haven't read the interview, so I'm remiss to speak about something that I have not read. I apologize.
Over here, on your right, Leo. Hi. I think one of the most talked about scenes, obviously, is the scene with the bear. And I was wondering if you could give us some insight into it and like how you and the bear discussed it before you shot, and if you've spoken since, and all of that.
That was amazing that Jonah did that. I'm not supposed to talk in great detail about how that was done, because it was Alejandro and Chivo's very specific work. They watched over Alejandro himself watched over 100 different bear attacks, but what he creates in that movie, in that sequence, is something that is almost like virtual reality. He almost awakens other senses, and I think people are talking about it for good reason. I think that sequence is going to go down in the history of cinema as an amazing, visceral, tactile sort of sequence that makes people really feel like they're there. And yes, it was incredibly difficult to do, but we rehearsed for weeks beforehand on just that sequence.
Well, talking about that, Alejandro, can you talk about how that sequence was planned and executed?
Well, it took a lot of months. I interviewed one crazy guy that did a book in bear attacks in Montana, who interviewed more than 100 guys that have survived or witnessed bear attacks. And he told me so much about it that I was absolutely shocked about how really a mother bear can feed her cubs, and that's it. It's a very natural thing, right? A mother feeding their kids, as we do every day, with chicken or with cows or with fish. But this time, we are the prey. We are a human being caught by a bear, and we said, oh my God, that's unbearable. But we eat every day this amount of animals that has the same life. And the recounts of that guy really struck me, and I tried to not do a Hollywood thing where animals has emotions attached, where they are scared or they are mad or they are empathy with us. No, they are just feeding their cubs. And seeing so many videos too, we blocked that, and Leo obviously went through a very hard physical demands to make this, and every trick possible, from the analogic early cinema days to the most sophisticated CGI things. I use it in order to have the audience being impacted by it and witness something that they will never witness in real life.
I have a question for both Francisco Varela from Telemundo NBC Network, Leonardo. What did you learn working with Mr. Iñárritu? And Alejandro, ¿cómo te sientes de estar triunfando y poniendo tan alto el nombre de México?
Alejandro is of the ilk of great lovers of cinema. When he and Chivo got a moment's rest from the frenetic pace that we kept up with making this movie, and they got 5 or 10 minutes, they'd run off into the distance to capture droplets of water off of a leaf or ants congregating together. They were like independent filmmakers that had a real love and excitement about making movies. And that enthusiasm was apparent every day, and it infused all of us. And a lot of the times directors want to go there and just get through the day, but they had a magic in their eyes about being out in these elements. And for me as an actor, to be able to work with somebody, not only with that enthusiasm, but the commitment every day to making things as authentic as he possibly could. He was ferocious in that. And I remember Jack Nicholson talking about Stanley Kubrick when I worked with him, The Departed. He goes, I loved working with Stanley because all I needed to do was concentrate on my job. He thought of everything else. And that's what it was like working with Alejandro. I just needed to focus on what I needed to do because I know everything was thought of by him, because he was feverish about making an authentic filmmaking experience for all of us.
One more question, please.
For me, working with Leo has been the best experience that I have had as a director.
Hi,
Big statement.
Samantha Leap from NPR, over here. Hello, congratulations.
Where are
Over
you?
here.
Where? Ah.
Hi. Both of you had talked about the indigenous people that you worked with on this film. Can you expand on it? What was the input and what has been the reaction, actually?
Let me tell you that all the land that we shot in Calgary and mostly in British Columbia were owned by Native Americans who were in reservations, which I couldn't understand. In Canada, this is called the Crown lands. They are still calling the Crown lands, which is absolutely ironic about it. And they allow us to be part of this production and allow us to shoot in their lands, give us their blessings. We went into a big conversation with them, trying to understand and be faithful to all the cultural, things that went through, and trying to portray as much with the most honestly and integrity thing with them, as complex as any human beings can be. And they couldn't be more happy to participate in a film like that. And we were guided by them to understand exactly what should be done, what should be portrayed in the realism of this film. And I couldn't be more happy to have been counting with them, because without them, we couldn't know that. everybody take for granted, and we just have so much prejudice and notions of who they are, how they were. But obviously, when you analyze how things were, these people really guide us, get us through, and allow us to be part of their culture and portray it with dignity, with complexity, without patronize them, without demonize them, but just as they are, as human beings as we are. And I was absolutely honored to be allowed to, we all were allowed to be shooting in their lands that way,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Congratulations.